Now, here are 5 things that you didn't know and you can't find on Google about Kenya. Number 1, Kenya is a democracy. Now, you can find that on Google, but what they don't tell you is that there's actually an oppressive, authoritarian regime that sits at a level above the federal government, and that's at the level of the mosquitoes. Everyone is under their thumb, or little hairy leg.
I know you're bloody in here somewhere. This is my house.
Number 2, Kenyans love a hello. If you give a little wave or a hujumbo or a thumbs up to any passing Kenyan, and you betcha you're getting a flashy white tooth smile and a great reception. Number 3, there's no road rage in Kenya. This one's amazing. Not if someone cuts you off, not if a bus is crawling up a hill over both lanes of a 2-lane highway, not if a runner runs through a red light and makes a driver slam on his brakes. 4, if you're running in Kenya, which is fantastic by the way, you cannot be precious about your gear. 5, Kenyans eat a lot of what they call starch, what we call carbs, and not much sugar, not much dairy. So something like chocolate is pretty hard to come by. Nice setup, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about today. The Kenyan diet, or more specifically, the elite Kenyan distance runner diet. The incredible success of Kenyan athletes, particularly in long distance running, has stunned the world for decades.
But here is the story now. Bridget Koske.
I've been in this situation, so I'm not comparing myself to Calvin Kiptum.
Faith Kipyegon yet again finds another gear. We have 1 minute to go. Eliud Kipchoge is on his way here.
Well, Helen Obiri, great athlete that she is really stepping up here tonight.
Going right to the line. Who's going to get it? It's Kipruto.
Particularly when these athletes come from a developing nation with far less resources, less infrastructure, and less opportunities than developed nations, how then does this East African nation produce so many world-class athletes? Genetics? Maybe. Environmental conditions? Quite possibly. Diet? Perhaps. I'm Average Tom Slim, and I just got home from 2 weeks in Africa, a week in Zambia, and then a week in Kenya. And it went a little something like this. Now, of course, I ate like a Kenyan. I like to think that I ran like a Kenyan, just not as good. I ran 109 kilometers in that week in Kenya, and this is at altitude, of course. It was my own little altitude training camp, if you will. You won't? So today's vid is about my takeaways from eating and running for a week in the home of the world's best long distance runners. If you like this video, or you're just like me, or Kenya, or running, or beans, or if you just like anything at all, then please subscribe to my channel and help me grow it. Spread the love. So what do Kenyans eat? Kenyans don't eat a whole lot of protein. Now there is a class divide here. Higher earning Kenyans are going to eat meat more frequently, and lower earning Kenyans are going to eat meat a lot less frequently. And that's because meat is expensive. You'll find a lot of elite runners, or those trying to make it in the elite, don't come from the cities but come from more rural areas, they earn less, and they eat less meat. This totally works for me because I'm a veggie. So what do they eat? Starch. Now, just to clarify, starch is kind of the same as carbs. Carbs incorporate sugar, whereas starch doesn't. But what does starch include? We're talking rice, bread, potatoes, chapati, plus porridge for breakfast, and ugali. Now, I had this in Zambia, but I didn't take any footage, so did it really happen? They get protein, mostly from beans, but also from eggs, and they drink lots of tea. So, according to a 2004 research paper, here is the typical elite Kenyan distance runner diet in a lovely pie chart. Now for reference, here's the typical Aussie breakdown according to the ABS. There's a huge difference in carbs. And now for extra reference, here's what I typically eat according to the ADSBS. As you can see, my diet aligns much more closely with the typical Aussie diet than the Kenyan one. Hence why I'm not winning any marathons. Except for this one.
Dom Theodore, 2023 Australian Outback Marathon winner!
So what did I eat in Kenya? Pretty much the Kenyan diet. Here's what I ate for a week in Kenya. For breakfast, it was served at the inn that I was staying at each morning, and I ate it after my run. I would run fasted and then eat breakfast. Breakfast was a combination of fruit, eggs on toast, potatoes, crepes, and cereal. I think these last two are more of a Western influence. I was staying in a part of Nairobi that had a large expat community. The neighborhood was called Karen. Now you're probably thinking, Karen probably means something really cool in Swahili. No, Karen is named after a white woman. I really tried to take advantage of the breakfast each morning, so I ate a lot. Lunch, I ate at the cafeteria at work every day. Sorry, by the way, I was here for work, not for leisure. So all week, it was rice, beans, and cabbage. Super healthy, surprisingly yum, very generous servings, and it cost about $2. On the weekend, I switched to porridge. It's another Kenyan classic, but also an ADS classic. Now dinner was also provided at the inn that I was staying at. There were 3 veggie options, and they were all Indian influenced. Now the Kenyan cuisine has a large Indian influence due to a large Indian population, and that is a great thing. Indian cuisine is the best. Now partly why Indian food is so delicious, and if I have any Indian viewers, please correct me in the comments below if this is not right, but it's because Indians love to cook with, it's like a butter-like substance that they put in everything called GHEE. So everything is cooked with a lot of ghee, so it's creamy and buttery and so delicious. But it also leaves you feeling really full, and that's because I don't think it's very healthy. Now, the Kenyans don't think they cook using this ghee, which means in terms of taste, it is still yummy, it's got those flavors in it, but doesn't quite have that insane kick that Indian food has. But it is quite a bit healthier and it doesn't leave you feeling sick. I probably couldn't eat Indian food 5 days in a week, but I ate Kenyan Indian food every night of that week, no problem. So dal and chapati, potato curry and rice, mutton paneer and naan on repeat. Now I also took up drinking tea, and that's mainly because I didn't really like the taste of the coffee. Now you can call me an Aussie coffee snob, that's fair. It's kind of weird, but I'm really enjoying tea now. So that's what I ate in a day. And in a week, essentially I ate the same foods every day for the week. But that simplicity, that repetition is actually a cornerstone of the Kenyan diet, particularly the elite Kenyan distance runner diet. It's very predictable and very easy to align with your running regime. So what's missing, or limited at least? Dairy and fats for one. Cheese is not a huge feature. Yogurt, no. Milk, not really. They might put milk in their coffee or tea, but otherwise not much. For me, I subbed my 3 milky coffees out just for black tea. There are some other fats in there, for example from fried food like samosas, which they have as a pretty common snack, but otherwise fats are pretty limited. The other quite limited food is sugar. Now Kenyans like to put a spoonful of sugar in their coffee or their tea, and they get natural sugars from fruits. But soda, other sugary drinks, sugary foods, it's not really a part of the Kenyan diet. So of that 77% that you saw, that's mostly starch, and it's very little sugars. You compare it to the Aussie diet, of that 44% carbs, it's about 24% starch and 20% sugar. So what changes did I see after a week of eating like a Kenyan? As for running, it was probably too short a sample and too small a sample size to be able to really tell. Plus, there was several notable variables. I like that. Several. i.e. I was suddenly running at 700 meters of altitude. There was a 7-hour time difference, that's probably jet lag. And my regime had changed quite suddenly between doing a speed session and a threshold each week to 2 fartleks in a week. And I was suddenly running 7 days. Nevertheless, filled with no sugar, but lots of starch, I felt very energized, made me feel very fit, didn't feel sick at all, and overall felt really good in my training week. So whatever I was eating was certainly not doing me any disservice, but it's hard to draw any more significant conclusions about the impact on my running performance. Now, speaking of running, here's a run I did with a Kenyan running group on Saturday morning.
This hill goes for forever. I'm telling you. Oh my God, altitude plus hills.
Now, as for the Kenyan diet and my body, I did notice differences, both externally and internally. Internally, I don't mean I did an x-ray or anything, I just meant how I felt. I felt light and my stomach was cramp-free, and I felt energized and just generally excellent. Now, externally, I believe that I look like I dropped body fat. Now, I know you can't really drop noticeable body fat within a week, at least I don't think so. But I think what both of these internal and external differences comes down to is bloating. And you can notice a difference in bloating within a week. For me, at home, usually it's too much sugar or too much dairy that causes me to bloat a bit. And also, it usually gives me a stitch if I've been eating those foods in a day and then I run in the afternoon. But on the Kenyan diet, I felt like I was clean eating every single day, every meal. And after every meal, and when I was running, I never felt sick or bloated. And when I looked at my body, I looked like I didn't bloat at all. And I appeared leaner. Overall, this very limited and very unscientific scientific experiment showed us that carbs, or at least starch, is definitely not the enemy. And in fact, for your long distance runner, it's kind of your best friend. So I could immediately start to see a connection between this coveted Kenyan diet and a well-fueled, healthy running regime. Now, will I change anything now that I'm back home in Australia? I'll level with you. I really miss my dark chocolate. I miss pasta, and I miss my milky Australian coffee. Now, I might sub out my third milky Australian coffee in a day for tea. I might replace some of my more dairy-heavy lunches, like my protein shakes or my yogurt bowls, with rice meals. Admittedly, the types of foods that I usually eat isn't crazy different from the Kenyans. I eat bread, eggs, rice, potatoes, vegetables, fruits, and I eat limited meat and sugar. But as you could see from my lovely pie charts, there was still a significant difference in my macronutrients. Naturally, I have been influenced by Kenya, and I want to eat more like the Kenyans. I want to run more like the Kenyans. I have a half marathon coming up very soon. So subscribe now to follow my journey and watch me run around Hobart, hopefully like a Kenyan, in a few weeks' time. I'm Average Dom Slim. Kuputa Tumbili Juwewe.
Now, I got a taxi out here, but I now have no way of getting a taxi back because I don't have internet. So I'm running home, 15 k's down and 13 k's to run home. Let's go. Oh, this is gonna be a long run. It's gonna be a long run. My legs are sore. Oh. Okay, well that got dicey for a little while. I definitely saw the real Nairobi, if you know what I mean. And now I'm back on the main road, so it feels a bit more stable. It's looking okay now. All right, we're on the home straight. Well, I made it home. It's been quite the morning. 28 k's down. And I've got a long run tomorrow. Holy hell.